G'day, everybody. Wes Zandt here from the Down Under Centre. I'm joined with David from Woodland Shop Fitting. So firstly, David, cheers for making the time to chat with us a bit about some of the jobs you've got going in Australia. So let's learn a little bit about what your company does and whereabouts you're located, please, mate.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks for having us, Wes. So we're based in Brisbane. So we're on the north side of Brisbane. Almost halfway between Brisbane and the Sunshine Coast. So obviously, we're noosing a lot of other people will be familiar with nice healthy places up here. So we've been in operation for around about 40 years now, and Michael Casablanca is our current managing director and owner. Michael actually is the president of ASOFIA. So it's a national government body of fit outs. So we come from a really good pedigree, multi-award winning projects that we do. Our projects themselves vary quite widely. We do a lot of very high-end jewellery work. We've got a national contract that we've had for around about 25 years with the same client. Every single store that they've ever completed, we work in with them. So good long-term duration. Very trustworthy with the works that we do, and you don't get that from poor workmanship.
Excellent. Now, mate, before we talk a bit about more in detail, so you're based in Brisbane, but mate, you don't have an Aussie accent. So you're a migrant yourself, is that correct?
Yeah. So 8 years ago, nearly 9 years ago now, I would have been sitting on the other end of this conversation and looking for some sponsorship myself. So I did mine a slightly different way. I just decided to marry so I could come over here, but can't tell anybody else about it. So yeah, I've made the move. I've sat there in the cold and the dark and got up very early to do Skype meetings in the middle of the night. Gone through the nerves of the process, gone through having to move over here. Yeah, I've been there and done it all. It's a pretty daunting prospect. So anybody who's looking at this just now, I can understand where you're coming from, and it probably qualifies me fairly well to discuss when we do get to the stage of talking about the roles themselves. I can probably add a little bit more insight into that.
Look, 100%, David. Like, I'm really big with the emotional side of migration. So, like, even though you're offering sponsored jobs, either TSS, ENS, which is a great opportunity for people, as well as also migrants that are arriving with visas. So your door's open to people that are looking to migrate, which is good. But it is the emotional side of migration, and it is trying to find the right candidate, for you. So when we look at the occupation, so we're looking at joiners, shop fitters, cabinet makers. Are you looking for like carpenters that have a bit of experience with shop fitting, or just give us a really like who would be the perfect applicant for you?
So there is a slight difference of terminology from back home to across here. So cabinet makers predominantly work in the factory, so they are putting everything together, not necessarily just boxes. So we're talking about bespoke portals, reception desks, and everything in between, wall clad and everything else. So it's I don't know, it's probably a little bit more of a finishing joiner. That is probably a little bit of a closer term, but anybody who's been shop fitting back home, back through the UK, they'd be fairly well versed in what we're looking for. So they do kind of split it a little bit more differently over here. Shop fitters tend not to work in the factory. They tend to be out on site fitting the shops, and cabinet makers tend more to be factory based. There is a lot of interchange within them, but that's almost how it's set out over here. It's slightly different. So anybody who's worked with shop fitting companies back home will be a real benefit. Things are done pretty differently over here, especially with the amount of hours. Urgency's slightly different as well. So I worked in recruitment back home, so recruited shopfitters worked within that space, understand the hours that are worked and the way that jobs are gone about, maybe 7/12, 7/14s to get stores knocked over. Whereas over here it's a different way of doing things. So there's a lot of changes to be made.
Excellent. Excellent. So, okay, so we've narrowed them down. And what are the working hours working for you guys? What's start time and finish time? Do you guys offer overtime?
So we primarily working around about a 40-hour week. Starts at 6:30 in the morning till 2:30 in the afternoon. That's standard working hours over here, not necessarily standard back home, not the full 8 o'clock starts. But it does allow you to be finished and enjoy the rest of the afternoon. So that's when your lifestyle really kicks in.
Yeah.
Shop fitting in general, anywhere around the world, obviously the hours and projects dictate to that. So there is an opportunity for overtime. Closer to Christmas, you're a little bit busier. January tends to be a little bit quieter. But we've diversified as well as shop fitting, where we're doing a lot of joinery supply and install to some landmark projects, so that even the hours out.
Okay, so it's really good hours actually. So okay, so we're doing that now. When the people are on site, they've got to go on site. Do you guys provide vehicles? Is the migrant to provide their own vehicles? How does that work, mate?
Initially, it'd probably be best suited for somebody who comes over to spend their time within the factory, learning the Aussie way of doing things as well. So there are opportunities to look at that. There are a couple of work vehicles and work trucks that we do have that are interchangeable.
Yeah.
But the way that everything is fairly complex, the way that it's set up.
Perfect. Now, your operation's actually based, the postcode of your business is actually based in Brisbane, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's based in Brisbane. So it's QLD 4500. So North Brisbane, around about 30 k's out of the city, but technically it still does fall within that city limit.
Yeah, and this is one of the main reasons why you are looking for a sponsored applicant as well, to give people who actually do want to be able to live and work in the Brisbane an opportunity via the 482 and also the ENS visa as well, which is obviously really good opportunities for for people to get down there. Mate, let's talk about salaries, hourly rates, and everything like that. How does it work, mate? What will they be looking at earning?
Yeah, so it works differently. Australia works differently to back home, where there's normally a rate, and that's what you're on. So we pay $33.09 is the base, but you also, anybody who's looked at this process knows you'll then get your super on top of that. But because we signed up to an EBA, which is it's basically, if you have a little look through CFMEU union, you'll have a bit of an understanding about that. So there's a lot of penalty rates that are associated with that. There's redundancy that's associated with that. So we've only just signed that back up within the last 6 weeks. So
good on you guys. That's good.
There's a lot of extras that you wouldn't normally get on a non-EBA side, and that's something that we can really talk through in greater detail. So there's a lot of extras that you do get put on top of that. In Australia, they have RDOs as well, which from memory, I might be wrong, don't really have RDOs back home. So it's about one a month.
Really?
A paid day off.
A paid day off. Okay, paid day off every month. Yep. That's it's pretty good. I mean, even in Melbourne this weekend, we got like Tuesday off because there's a horse race on, mate. Got to love that.
Yeah. It's a different world over here.
Yeah, a little bit.
You get a day off. The whole world stops, or the whole of Australia stops to watch a horse race.
Yeah.
There's a few different things to get your head around over here, but yeah, it's a good lifestyle. It tells you what the lifestyle is like when a whole nation stops for a horse race.
Perfect. Now, mate, just okay. So give us an example of some of the projects that you're working on at the moment, or projects that you've got coming up in the future.
Yeah, so we're really fortunate to be part of the Queen's Wharf project. So anybody who wants to have a look to see what Brisbane's doing over the next few years, you have a little look at Queen's Wharf. So it's by multiplex, it's 1.5 billion. Well, it's starting at $1.5 billion. Let's be honest. It's going to finish a lot higher than that. So we picked up a lot of bespoke work with Multiplex, so Brookfield Multiplex. So I believe they did Wembley Stadium back in the day, but they're a little bit better over here now. So yeah, that's some really nice high-end stuff. We're currently doing some schools at the moment. We'll do some pubs and bars, and we've got a very heavy retail focus as well. So we'll just try to think if there's anybody who's over here that would know. So BCF, Super Cheap Auto, EB Games, and then we've got exclusive rights from Michael Hill and also Wallace Bishop, who are two very large jewelers. So we've got a lot of repeat clients. So we've got a lot of work that's similar, but we've also got a lot of repeat clients who are builders who we build bespoke joinery for. So that can be anything from 1 level to 10 levels. So yeah, there's a fair variance. It's enough to keep people interested that you're not just building. You're definitely not going to be building boxes every day. We build a lot of shop front portals as well.
Yep.
And the difference is over here, we've got a CAD team. So we've got five-person CAD team. So we start the process off by going and spending 2 to 3 hours measuring the space. So all these are measured. Then we bring that back. We do some approval drawings, shop drawings through CAD. And then as they're signed off by the client, they're then sent through to our 2 CNC machines. They route everything out. So everything's perfect. It's fully labeled up. And then there's a pile for what that GO1, GO2, GO3 items would be, all printed out, stickered. And then literally cabinet makers then taking them back to the bench with a full load. So effectively, we're break it down in a really simple way that it's almost like an IKEA kit that we break it down into. So everything's routed absolutely perfectly. So it's millimeter perfect, everything's the same. Yeah. And you're going from there. So that's how we get a lot of it's one of the key differences, and that's why we get a lot of repeat work. And why we're extremely good at doing bespoke work.
Oh, it's good. It's good. Now, I mean, so at the moment, how many people are you looking to fill right now, mate? How many migrants you want to take on right now?
Right now, we're probably looking for between 5 and 6 at the moment. Good quality tradesmen who can really come out here and make a difference. It's a big difference to be made to their lives, but also I know the work ethic of people back home, and when you're coming over here and you're fighting for a new life, which is really effectively what it is. You're fighting to start again and make the most of it. As long as people come over and work hard, they'll go far.
Yeah. No, look, I mean, well, you're proof of it, and a couple of the other employees we've got on board as well are ex-migrants, or people that have migrated themselves. It's definitely good, but obviously it has its challenges. But I think, as you mentioned earlier, David, like you've been through them, and for you to sort of help out with that is obviously important. So, okay, so we've spoken a bit about the job, we've spoken a bit about the finances. You have signed up to the union, which is good. You also mentioned about superannuation, RDOs, which is obviously a day off every month, which is basically being part of the union, etc. But overtime available. You're offering a sponsored visa. You're based in Brisbane, so that's all these good facts. Now, mate, just let's turn away from that. When you have you always been in Brisbane yourself, mate?
Yeah, I've always been in Brisbane. I actually had a job. So my mother and father-in-law moved over to Australia around about 12 or 13 years ago. So I had a job in Sydney initially lined up. Came over to Brisbane, spent some time up here, just to acclimatise before we went down. Had a little bit of a look to see what we could afford in Brisbane in comparison to what you can afford in Sydney, and
big difference.
Brisbane was a place for me. For me, it provides a much better lifestyle, much better quality of life, closer access to the beaches, it's affordable, and the weather's better up here.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff. All right. So without getting too personal, mate, let's talk about the life of David. So you mentioned others, people are going to work for you. They start at 6:30, they finish at 2:30. They do a day's work. What would or a young family get up to? Obviously, the kids are at school and that, but after school or people, what would they get up to in Brisbane, mate? Tell us where people should actually go and visit.
There's a multitude of things to do. It really depends on what the families like themselves. It's the opportunity to be outside is probably one of the kickers. So it's that nice weather. I mean, moving up to Brisbane, there's going to be opportunities. You've got a swimming pool, back garden, you're cooking on the barbecue every night, and all the things that you think of back home are possible over here. Yeah. You'll get fed up of them eventually, because after you've been here for a while, it's normal. You become spoiled by them.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely lots of sports. It's a very sport orientated country. You name it, you can do it over here. There's fairly decent shopping if that's what you want to do. But the opportunity if you want to fish is probably pretty strong. There's one of the project managers here, his mate's got a rather expensive boat, and they go out for several days at a time. Just make the most of it.
Yeah, I think, David, I was going to pick up on something you said there. Like, obviously, you can, if you've got the barbecues and the beaches and all that, like, my wife's British and she's like, I can't believe how clean the facilities are here in Victoria. And, like, you've got the beach behind you, no one's done a wee mate on the barbecue. Well, not to my knowledge anyway. There's sort of, been kept clean. The amenities, the toilets and all that are all good. But we started before we were recording, just, how busy you've been and I guess myself been, and, how run down you get. And even yesterday, just being able just to go for a swim in the daytime and just sort of clear your mind and do that. So I guess you do get used to anything if you've got it on your doorstep all the time, but just stopping and thinking that how lucky we are actually to be able to, to do that. Because, again, 16 years away from Melbourne and just getting back to Melbourne, you forget that it is just on the doorstep and it is there. So for people listening, just, if you're out there or you're heading out there, just make the most of that and then focus on the reasons why that you want to move to Oz. Obviously, having a job is a very important part. Getting a visa is obviously a really important part of the process too. And David and his business are able to provide that for the sponsorship pathway, which is good. But it is, mate, it's a very good lifestyle out here, and obviously the UK and other parts of the world have great lifestyles as well, but it is unique. Mate, just one last question. Weather in Brizzy. Okay, so you're not so you're in Brisbane, so you're below the Sunshine Coast, but you're above Sydney and New South Wales. Humidity, dry heat, was it something that you would suggest people be cautious of, or it just absolutely flows? I know the sunny coast can get a bit humid, but where you are, is that just normal, just a bit warmer?
Yeah, it's the very first summer you go through, you'll remember for the rest of your life.
Yes.
Does get pretty warm. I mean, I come from a place where if it's 14 degrees, you put your t-shirt off, and it's a bank holiday. So yeah, it does take a little bit of getting used to. But you do get used to it, and you do. I mean, I must admit, it's like 22 degrees, and I'm wearing a jumper now, where it used to be 2 degrees, and I'm wearing a jumper. So you become accustomed to it. It does take a little bit of time, especially at the beginning. It's a bit getting used to, like the heat's, like people be used to the heat, and it's 30 degrees or 32 degrees, and you're sitting on a beach all day and you're drinking beer. Well, that's pretty easy when you're on holiday, but when you're working,
correct,
slightly different. When you're carrying 10 bags of shopping up the stairs, you need to put your shopping away. That's a little bit different. So it does take time to get used to it, but you get there pretty quick, and the perks are pretty good.
Yeah, no, I think it's good, mate. Always good to manage people's expectations, but where you are, it's not as humid. Sometimes people think, like Queensland's a huge state, and the top of Queensland, it gets humid and muggy, but Brizzy's pretty good. Like Brisbane's nothing like the top. I always sort of compare it to Perth's weather a little bit. You're sort of like on that line. If if Australia's like that, and you draw a line halfway through, you got Brizzy here and then Perth there, and that's why they're very popular places, because you don't get a winter like us in Victoria, mate. You get to keep warm all year round. So, but look, David, I just want to thank you so much for making the time for this video. We'll aim to find you some people. So for people watching this, just get a hold of the Down Under Centre and we can advise you. Obviously, for our Down Under Centre clients, you'll get first pick. And then David, look forward to working with you, you and your business for a foreseeable future. And thank you again, mate, for making the time to make this happen. And all the best, and we'll get you some clients over for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Wes, and I look forward to meeting everybody.
No worries. Take care, mate. We'll speak soon.
Excellent. Thanks, Wes. Cheers now. Bye-bye.